Every once in a while, I do this mental exercise where I call it going to space. And I elevate myself above the house that I live in mentally. I picture it. And then I go higher. And then pretty soon I can see the block that I live on. Shortly thereafter, as I get even higher, I could see the city, the county that I live in. And then pretty soon I could see the curve of the earth and the whole continent. And I just keep going. And before too long, I'm looking at the earth. Sometimes I can get so far out that it looks like the size of a marble. Sometimes the size of a BB. Sometimes I get closer still. But I call that going to space. And I look at everything from different vantage points. And I like to study humanity. You ever wonder what it would be like to be an alien from another race that's similar to ours, that does things differently? Like, let's say on another planet, they live like ancient Egyptians, let's say. And you come here and you see all of the economies and infrastructure. I don't like that word. But the roads and everything that we do. Some of the stuff would look batshit crazy, wouldn't it? All of you people down there on Earth, feel free to donate to the show at the podcast website. It's atlanticradio.blogspot.com, and I hope you're having a great time. Here it is, the podcast from space. The presidential debates were on last night, and I can't help but talk about it. Because it's one of the biggest issues in everywhere right now. Anywhere I go, like Twitter, people are talking about it in bars, at my gigs, on television. But it's something I've avoided, especially this go round. Because from nearly the beginning, it was obvious that there was only one real choice from among the candidates, and that was Hillary Clinton. I was highly put off by the way that looked, for several reasons. One being one that is maybe a little bit more conspiratorial. Like if you run a quick calculation of game theory about this election in your mind, you come to that conclusion I mentioned, that there's only one winner here. And people who are far more accredited to talk about these things than I am have thought the same thing. Not all of them, but some of them. So towards the beginning of the election, you had Bernie Sanders, who associated himself with the word socialism in a country where people were taught to equate socialism to terrible images of China and Russia and Stalin. Then on the right, you have this ex-reality show star who's spouting off racist remarks towards Mexicans and Muslims and just saying all sorts of not very well thought out things, talking about building walls between the United States and Mexico. And then in the middle of these two, you have a blonde female, which is Hillary Clinton. And America, just after having the first half African-American president in its history, is now poised to have its first woman president in history. But if you're somebody who studies history of this nation and other nations, you realize that this is only the first woman president for America, not the whole world. For example, Egyptians had female pharaohs, And, countries like Russia had women fighter pilots during World War II and a woman sniper team. And, of course, Brazil has had a woman president. But it doesn't seem to count to Americans until America does it first, which makes sense in a way if you're only measuring things nationally. But the way that people act about it, that it's such an important thing that we have a woman president, no matter who she is. There's a lot of allegations of corruption against Hillary Clinton, which brings me to the second reason why I've avoided this election. The patterns with the Bushes, for example, and the Clintons, it starts to look more like a theocracy, I think is what you call it. I get my government systems mixed up. But when you have a king or a queen, a monarchy, like these families, the Bushes and the Clintons, who have their hands, have had their hands all over the US government, with George Herbert Walker Bush being the president, who was George W. Bush's father, and Hillary Clinton's husband, of course, Bill Clinton, was the president. So how are fresh ideas supposed to get in? It almost seems like things are poised so that does not happen. And then another reason that I've avoided this election is because I'm 43 now, and I've been through 3 presidential elections where I've been more or less politically aware. Now, I'd like to tell you something a little bit about me being 43 and being politically aware. I'm someone who comes from a lower class neighborhood, but I managed to have some good things going for me. And I was bent on educating myself, which I've worked at very hard throughout my life. And if you think what I'm saying to you right now makes sense, it has taken me about 43 years, or if you don't count like the first 17 years, then it's taken me that long. Whatever that number is, I'm terrible at doing math in my head. So my English, I don't think my English is masterful. ¿Qué, baby? Ok, un momento. Estoy haciendo una grabación, ok? Un momento. Ok? Sí, espérame, baby. So it's taken someone like me, who comes from a place like where I came from, it's taken me 43 years to realize these things. Maybe a generation with the internet will realize things faster, but I'm not sure about that. We'll see. Right now, from looking at my Twitter feed, it doesn't seem that way, because too many people are entertained with the 2 choices, the 2 parties that have been placed in front of them. That's what they entertain. And it seems like most people think that there's no point in entertaining any other ideas, because this is the way that things are. Now, getting back to the third reason that I've been avoiding this election, other than what may seem obvious to you, maybe not, that it's farcical, to say the least, is that in the past 3 presidential elections, I've watched third parties be excluded from debates, and in my view, it's hard to recall all the details when you're a musician, primarily when you're trying to recall things from memory concerning details about politics. But from my memory, it seemed too much like the public was steered. Like in 2001, I believe it was, it seemed like Kerry had won the election. And there was a lot, they even made movies and documentaries about the election being stolen by the Bushes. And then when it came time for his re-election, it seemed very similar. So that's 2 elections. Then Obama became president, and that just seemed like, game theory-wise, like the perfect thing to do if you were trying to get a certain person elected, if it was a planned thing in some way, shape, or form. which I'm not saying that that it is necessarily, but these kinds of thoughts have to occur to you if you're being honest, I think, and you're really looking at the situation. And by no means am I saying that all these people are meeting in the same room and planning these things out. But I'm also not saying that they're not. Still, I'm faced with a pounding drum of, even from my college-educated friends, that I live in a swing state and I must vote for Hillary. Obviously, my friends are left-leaning, if you want to call Hillary left. That if I don't vote for her, otherwise I'm going to get it. Like, do you want this guy Trump to win? I know Hillary's not a great choice, but do you want Donald Trump to win? So once again, for the third time, or the fourth time actually, I'm faced with choosing the lesser of two evils. Choosing between hot shit or cold shit. It's all the same shit. And intellectually, my standards have grown beyond that. And it's very difficult to tolerate this type of situation when it comes to choosing your leader. So I stay out of it and try to affect the world I live in other ways. It's taken me this long to have this mindset concerning politics. How on point or how off base I am, I'm not exactly sure. And if that's any measuring stick for everybody else, to expect others who are not in elite schools or have loads of time to study and take a good look at things, to expect them to understand what's going on year to year or something that's happened today, to expect them to understand it tomorrow, seems just impossible. Because within this game, politicians are just so much farther ahead of the game.